Evening, everybody. This is Sixtine Crutchfield from WISe.ART. Welcome. I'm very happy to have you here. This is the first of a series of 4 for the 2023 spring series. So welcome, everybody. Although it's not really, if you look out the window, it's not really springtime yet, but it's coming, I'm quite sure. Just a few maintenance things. Just a second. Sorry, we had a bit of a maintenance issue here with an echo. Yeah, we're going to record this session, and the recording will be sent to you after the event, and it will also be available on the YouTube channel, on the WISe YouTube channel. We have a Q&A, which is right down here. If you guys look in the Q&A little chat, and please feel free to ask questions. I'll be following it through. If you have any questions about any of the things that we're talking about, or directly to the artists or the curators that we've got on board, please write them down and I'll read them out for you. I'm going to introduce Marco and then Christina, and we're waiting for one more guest from New York. Her name is Ariel, and she's from the Pace Gallery, the Verso, which is their NFT platform. So Christine, welcome. You're based in Geneva, I understand, and you're a curator. So you work with several artists. Some of them are already working with NFTs, and you've trusted WISe.ART as your platform. So welcome on board. Do you want to tell us a little bit who you are and what you do? And
sure. I'm originally a psychologist. And I started in the arts world a few years ago, about 10 years ago. And so I worked with Antonio Natale, the artist of banknotes at first, only with him. And slowly but surely, I moved on to other artists as well. And I onboarded with Antonio the platform of WISe.ART, and which was the best thing that we did for NFS as far as the NFTs are concerned. And I thank you for that. So
I thank you for your trust.
You're welcome.
I should also mention that Antonio was part of the first awards that we decided to hand out in Davos in 2023. Last year, we had some very important people who were in the innovation side of things throughout the world, but this time we decided to award them to our best-selling artists, and Antonio came one of the top, as did Marco, by the way. So I'll move on. We've also had Ariel join us. So as I was saying earlier, Ariel works with Pace Verso. So welcome, Ariel. You're in New York, so thank you very much for joining you during your lunch hour.
Yes, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Do you want to tell us a little bit just about who you are? We'll talk about Verso a little bit later, but you know, what your background is.
Sure. Nice to see everyone. Thanks again for having me. Sorry to be a few minutes late. My background is I worked in the art world for a number of years. I worked at the Museum of Modern Art, MoMA in New York, and with galleries in New York. Then I went to business school and spent a couple years at the Boston Consulting Group, always with the plan to come back around to the art world with some business skills, which I did about 2 years ago when I joined Pace Gallery to lead business development. And from within that business development role, I started exploring Web3, and Pace Verso grew out of that. And now my full-time role is leading Pace Verso. So if you want me to leave it there at Pace Verso, I'm happy to, and look forward to sharing more about it later.
Perfect. Congratulations anyway, because it's a very exciting job. I think you were one of the first galleries to actually announce it, and with a bang with Jeff Koons. So perfect. So I can't wait to hear more.
Yes,
Marco, he's one of our artists, photographer, digital artist, also award winner. So welcome. Do you want to tell us a little bit what your background is?
Thank you for having me. Well, photography is my hobby. I'm a system administrator. I was working as an IT guy, but my background is that NFT and the photography is kind of just one step forward for me, you know, because I mostly got interested in the blockchain technology because of the cryptocurrencies in 2015, and then started like building my own mining platform, you know. And then after that, I like started slowly to move into the NFT, you know, to see how big possibilities there are for it, you know, how we can use it in the real world. So basically, I started with the photography, and then we will see after that how it goes.
How it goes, absolutely. You're sort of upping my opinion about IT and geeks. I just didn't think they had that creativity in them. So well done.
Thank you.
And again, we have a Q&A. If anybody wants to add anything about creativity and geeks, more than happy to answer that one. Okay, the theme of the webinar today is why should I work with NFTs? And the question goes a little bit to me as well, because I'm like Ariel, I'm from the arts background. I've worked in the arts industry all my life. And about a year and a half ago, I was invited to join WISe in order to shape up WISe.ART, the platform, as an artistic director. And well, a year and a half ago, I didn't really know what an NFT was. Obviously, I'd heard about them, we'd all read about Beeple and everything else, but it was a very exciting offer that they made. So there I am now. And why do I work with NFTs? Basically, because I think it's the future. And I think we can't work without it in the future. I also think it's not just a money spinning investment platform or new tool for investors, but it's also, in the long term, it will be a must for every museum, foundation, or important collection. And I think that's the way I'd like to go to see it as a researcher, more than the commercial side of things, even though obviously it's very attractive, the commercial side of things. I was just wondering, maybe Ariel, what you know, what's the basis of Verso? Oh, you have to, you're on mute, sorry.
Sorry, we started building Verso about 2 years ago, and the impetus for starting to build was that Pace Gallery artists, and maybe I should say a little bit what Pace Gallery is before I go too deep on Pace Verso, but Pace Gallery is a global art gallery. I'm at our headquarters in New York right now, but we also have galleries in Geneva, London, Los Angeles, Hong Kong, Seoul, etc. We represent, our business model is that we represent about 130 artists and artist estates globally. And when I say represent artists, I mean we are sort of the artist's agent. We present their work in our galleries. We sell their work. So we represent artists like Jeff Koons, also the estates of Mark Rothko, Alexander Calder, so big global artists. And about 2 years ago, those artists started coming to us and saying they were interested in pursuing NFT projects and could we help them? And our CEO said to me, the key to our business and to being successful is that when our artists, who we think are the best artists in the world, come to us and say they want to explore something new, we figure out how to support them. So we figured out how we started exploring the space and figuring out what was the best way for us to support our artists. I often say it's like if sculpture had never existed before and all of a sudden our artists wanted to make sculptures, like we'd figure out how to build pedestals, you know. It's not different. In this space, we have to build something digitally to support what they're doing. So that's how we got started with Pace Verso, and that's really still our mandate today, is to support Pace Gallery artists who are interested in expanding into this space. And now we're also starting to dip a toe into working with new artists we're identifying from this space as really incredible creators and support their work as well.
Absolutely. And I suppose you're also a guide to the collectors, right? To the buyers, because I can imagine, I mean, I've known Pace for years, and even when it was Wildenstein, and I can't imagine that the core business or the core of your collectors are NFT savvy, or are they? Maybe I'm wrong.
No, they're not. No, they're not. So what does that mean? I mean, our first priority is our artists, and we let the collectors follow. I mean, that's what distinguishes art from luxury handbags. We're producing whatever the artist wants to make, not what the buyer wants to buy.
Yeah.
So our artists want to be working in the space. So the fact that our collectors aren't necessarily there yet doesn't stop us or scare us from going in. We've done two things. We've tried to make this the NFT art by our artists accessible to the new group of collectors who are native to Web3. And then we've also tried to support our collectors in transitioning over into the space. And we're starting to do a lot more of the latter, starting to do webinars like this to train people on how to get a wallet and get cryptocurrency and participate in Dutch auctions and other, NFT sale mechanisms. But we're also like really cultivating new buyers who have emerged from Web3.
Absolutely. We'll come back to the moon phases at a later stage, because it's funny how you mentioned sculpture, sort of a nice lead to that, but we'll get back to it. Christine, you've also obviously worked with the traditional world, and you are keen to do what they call phygital packages. In other words, like what we've onboarded on WISe.ART are the NFTs that actually act almost like a certificate of authenticity towards a physical piece, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. For me, what is important is that security and the traceability, because by registering an original artwork, we give that opportunity for the buyer not only to get the original artwork, but also an NFT that goes with it. And the blockchain technology that's behind it creates this logbook.
Mm-hmm.
And we have traceability of who the artist is exactly, because it's linked to the artwork, and where it has been created, where it has been exhibited or published, and how much it was sold for, and who the obvious people who owned this original painting were.
Yeah.
So that is very important to us, and I thought that this would be a good means to register and have traceability and security on the artwork for Antonio.
Actually, it's true that for those who know how to read the blockchains, it is completely transparent and accessible to everybody. So like prices, etc. Like I remember the day when we were all collecting Christie's and Sotheby's catalogs, and then the sheet that went into it with all the prices and the results. Now then the internet came and you can just click on artprice.com or such likes. But the blockchain and the ledger will be the next step, or is already the next step, I think, for a lot of pricing. You come, Marco, from the crypto world. So how is it? Are your, let's say, colleagues or acquaintances from the crypto investing side of things, are they also keen on buying art?
Well, not yet. For them, NFT is something that is like new, and they have a, how do you say, they have some, they have a little bit like, it's new.
Mm-hmm.
We are thinking about it, that maybe it's going to be something like a cryptocurrencies, where you have like it's like some Ponzi scheme, something
Mm-hmm.
like that. So they're like still avoiding investing.
They're waiting.
They're waiting to see how the NFT industry is going to develop, because it's still a new thing, So they're like cautious,
Yeah. What's interesting, I think, is that obviously the crypto is very volatile, and we've had a dump just recently. They're talking about the winter. Is it spring again? I don't know yet. But the volume of NFTs has not really slowed down. So it's not correlated at the moment, which is quite an interesting thing. So the value's gone down, but the actual volume and the transactions are still very high, and also the types, like it goes to real estate, as we mentioned before as well, with accessories and your Hermes bag and whatever. It's all being tokenized now, so that's quite interesting as well. And that might be also a new pool of collectors maybe who would not have looked at art probably before, and all of a sudden as an NFT format, it's maybe less frightening. I mean, it also takes less place on your wall. You don't need to ship it and insure it and all that. I mean, all that logistics is a lot more simplified. And then Marco, are you also very interested in the fact that you'll be getting royalties on that secondary market? If people flip your NFTs, you'll still, your smart contract will say that you'll get something every time? Or is that not of interest at the moment? Is not your driving force?
Well, it's not my driving force. As I said, I started working NFT because photography is my hobby. When I travel, I take a lot of pictures, mostly of the architecture, because I like it. And I simply, started working with NFTs, creating them, and I will see how it goes. I know that you can put in a smart contract like royalties, yes, you do, but you cannot put a lot of it. You cannot put a huge percentage. So we'll see. You know?
What's interesting, and I should say that to our audience, is that Marco is here under Marco, but he actually, as the artist name, you're in a group and you're called MetaGalactic, right?
Yes.
So on the WISe.ART platform, you can see his work on MetaGalactic. But there is a face, there is a body behind it. It's not a robot. And there is also, like, with I can't wait to hear Ariel about the moon phases. And obviously Jeff Koons is not a robot either. So how did that come about? What was his idea?
Well, that's a very special, very unique project. Jeff Koons' Moon Phases is a project where Jeff is sending 125 very small sculptures, like the size of a golf ball, to the moon. Each sculpture is of a moon. Real sculptures. Okay. Yes, really to the moon. Okay. Each small sculpture is of the moon in a different phase as we see it from Earth. So the shadow is sort of in a different place. Each one is named after a notable figure from history. So Shakespeare, Sacagawea, etc. Once they are on the moon, they will be photographed. Each one will be photographed. The photographs will become NFTs.
Okay.
If you purchase one, you are actually purchasing 3 things in a set. You own one of the small sculptures on the moon. It's yours. You could go claim it if you want. You get the NFT that documents your sculpture on the moon. And then you get to keep here on Earth a much larger scale replica of your mini moon. That's about like 18 inches. So it's a big, beautiful Jeff Koons sculpture. Moon. So a 3-part set: the mini moon, the NFT, and the physical sculpture.
And what are the big one? What is it made out of? Is it porcelain?
It's stainless steel.
Oh, stainless steel. Okay. Mirror
reflective stainless steel. That's an exact replica of the moon's surface is etched into it. So it's a sphere, and it has all these craters on it, and they're not random or arbitrary craters. They are exact renderings of the moon's craters.
Okay. And did he choose to do a unique piece, like the NFT of the sculpture on the moon is a one-off, or is it an addition?
Well, so there's 125 artworks in this project because there's 125 moons. So again, each mini moon comes with an NFT that documents it on the moon and comes with the bigger sculpture on Earth. So there's
okay. All right. So it's also like a digital package, like what Christine is doing as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. It's super interesting. And was Jeff Koons, did he come to you, like he was savvy already and exploring the Web3, or?
Yes, he was definitely very interested and had several ideas. Of course, once there was the opportunity to go to the moon, that became like the clear winner and what he wanted to pursue.
Obviously, I can imagine that's very exciting. I'm just wondering if, I didn't realize you could just go and put your sculptures or your whatever on the moon. It's amazing. Well,
it's very difficult. It's not it's not as easy as you make it sound. I mean, we're working with NASA and several NASA contractors to make the whole thing happen. Yeah.
All right. Wow. So it hasn't happened yet.
Aspects of it have happened. The big moons that are to stay here on Earth are in production. The mini moons have been produced. The moon launch will happen in June. Or the rocket launch to send the sculptures to the moon.
Okay, so we look forward to that. I'm sure you'll have a huge drop and a huge buzz in the media, probably. All right, very good. Christine, you've got Antonio, but you've also got another artist who's planning to do a game, right? So this whole NFT thing is also very much into the gaming industry. Exactly. And so do you want to, what's the approach there?
Okay, his name is Eskandar Kasimzadeh, better known as Eskandar EZ. And he's created a whole set of army of little, soldiers. And he's going to explain that himself. I'm not about, I cannot talk about it because it's not done yet. So, we're going to keep that for next time. But right now he's working on a beautiful project for WISe.ART, and it's going to be put online very, very soon. I'm talking about next week. And people can go and get familiarized with him because he's really a genius in digital artworks.
Artwork, yeah. I have the pleasure to have met him, so I'm really looking forward to seeing that. But I was introducing the gaming industry because it's true that it's a whole new also client base for galleries, etc. But it's before it never worked, even though there's some artists that are incredible and very gifted in the gaming industry. A lot of it is close to sci-fi or historical. Sometimes it's both. But like we all had the example of Beeple a year and a half ago. And personally, I didn't know Beeple before he sold his NFT. So, it opens such a big world, which is interesting. And Marco as well, you work digitally, right? So it's not just photographs. You go over them. I don't know whether you Photoshop or what you do with them, but they don't look like photographs at the end of the day.
Well, I take photo. For example, I went to Prague because my first collection on WISe.ART was from Prague, and I go there. I take pictures, and then after that I edit them in a Photoshop, mostly using it, and then I give them the color of the like galaxy. That's the reason why we call it MetaGalactic NFT, because we use colors that like created by the universe, by the galaxy. So they're like very dark, but and also like vivid. How do you say? So it's kind of strange. They're not like normal colors.
But it's not artificial intelligence yet. You're not.
No. I'm not using. No.
Are you at Pace? Are you looking at this artificial intelligence and artists who work with generative art?
Yeah, I think two slightly different things. We're already doing a lot of generative art. We haven't yet done any AI-powered generative art. We did just announce yesterday that we have one of the leading AI artists who goes by Claire Silver is going to do a small project with us in April. So we're starting to dip a toe, but I'm really keeping an eye on it and think it's I'm so curious to see what great artists do with that new technology.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. And it's the first time I ever saw that was with this Rafik Anadol from LA, and then there's a New Zealander, I think, called Jesse Olsen, and they do all, like with buildings tumbling down and pixelated, and it's really fantastic. So there's so much going on. It's great. And I think one of the good things about COVID was that, it got people working on their computers and some extraordinary things came out. So that's quite cool. I'm just going to see, because we have a question. So I'll go in there and have a look if I can do that. It's a question for Marco, and it says, from a geek to a geek. So thank you for having that question. It comes from Anthony. What are your thoughts on AI? Well, we were just covering that. What are your thoughts on AI generated art?
Well, I wouldn't say that I'm against it, because there are artists who are not very good with the computers. And when I say that, I think in like using tools for image editing or creating images. But those artists maybe have a vivid imagination, and that AI can help them to create, to create NFT with AI, They just need to input the things that I see in their mind, and they will get a result.
Yeah.
So I would say it's helpful.
I think it's a tool like everybody, like if you go back in art history, I mean, from the caves, it went to the canvas, and then it went on to with photography on paper, etc. I mean, it's a tool. And computer art has been going on ever since computers existed. I think Vera Molnar is one of the first ones that come to mind, but she's she's close to 100, if not over 100 years old. And she's been working computer art, and then it went kinetic art, etc. So, I mean, it's just one more tool. I don't think people should be frightened of it. We hear a lot of people talking here about saying it's the end of art. But I think when photography first came out, it was also the end of art. So yeah, just to be taken with a grain of salt. About the Web3, are you also, Ariel, thinking about going and creating a metaverse for PACE, and that your clients will be walking around with goggles and meeting and having conferences in the space? Or are you not?
Potentially.
Really,
I mean, we're always trying to stay smart about what's going on in the space. I just yesterday had a call with an amazing innovator who showed me a beautiful art-oriented metaverse space he's built. But I would say right now, that's not my main area of focus for our growth. I just don't think there's a lot of energy in the metaverse right now. There's a lot of energy in generative art. So and I think the best, highest quality art from Web3 is coming out of generative platforms. So we're focusing there a lot. I definitely think eventually we'll be in the metaverse.
Yeah.
But unlike some of the other moves we're making, that one doesn't feel urgent to me, or like we need to be going out on a limb and being the first in that space. I just don't think much coming out in the metaverse yet is high enough quality for it to feel native to PACE.
Yeah, personally, I see it a little bit like when the internet started. There was basically there was Wikipedia that people could go to, etc. And now there's, the number is just exponential. Yeah. There's new websites being created every day by anybody and everybody. And somebody told me recently that the metaverse is going to be the same. There's going to be 100,000 and more spaces.
Yeah.
And the thing is, just like a website, you need to maintain it. You need to get people coming. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of effort. And I think you're right in waiting and wait. It's a wait and see game. Because it might not be that worth it. Like in Switzerland, I know of 2 galleries, one in Zurich and one in Geneva, and they've actually opened physical spaces for NFTs. So they've got the screens on the wall. Token Frame is one of the ones we all know, but Samsung also got LED, and LG have also got various different supports. And I think that might be a better, or it'd be a transition or a bridge solution. As people still go around Soho or whatever, whatever the area is, and they'll go in and maybe they'll look at pictures on a screen, and that I can see happening quite easily. I mean, already now people who do have NFTs, they're all happy to show it on their phones. I met someone in Miami recently who had a big collection of NFTs, and he said, I just go to my lodge in Aspen, and I put the phone in the stand there, and up it goes up on the screen. And that's what people will be doing, I think. Have you had any questions like that, Christine? I know that you're working hard on an exhibition in Lugano. So is that going to be physical and digital, or is it just
no, it's going to be physical. Now, this time it's going to be physical. We are participating in the first art fair of Lugano. It's going to be an international art fair that is going to take place every year. And this is the first edition of it. So there is no anything digital for now.
Okay.
But, we hope next year it's going to take over as well, and we will have stands that will be full of it.
Yeah. What's great with digital art is that you can take off, like you can, I know that Antonio, Natale has painted a Porsche, I think it is. No, it's a special Brazilian car. Looks
exactly,
like a Porsche.
Exactly.
And that, easily in the digital world could just take off. We'll call it chitty chitty bang bang.
Yes, exactly. Actually, he painted that car 2 years ago, and it's a Puma GTE of 1978 of Brazil. And we registered that car as NFT 2 years ago on the Motorchain platform. There's actually a very good interview of Antonio's that you can see done by the Motorchain on YouTube regarding that car. And it was great because it was the first time that a classical car, the classical car world was meeting the art world together with this technology of blockchain and NFT. So that's why I was talking about this traceability, because with this car, we know exactly, what has happened from day one with the car, and how it's moved along, and then it became a piece of art, and how it's going to move further, because we're aiming to auction it this July in Switzerland. So that's it. It's really a great opportunity for sure.
It's funny you bring up auctions, because it's always the big dilemma. And how do you price an NFT? I don't know if you're faced with that sort of questioning at pace, but it's always, is it best to do an auction, or is it best to leave it running? Is it best to do an edition? And if it's digital art, it's simpler because you can value it at the artist, the artist can say. But if it's an NFT for a painting, what's the value of it in comparison to the physical piece? Some people say 10-20%. It's complicated, I think. It's a whole new school, and I'm not sure what collectors are happy to accept yet. And I think a lot of it is buzz and communication. I know Sotheby's, they're working with Steve Aoki. He's a disc jockey, and he's obviously very good at communicating and creating a buzz. But whether he's good at evaluating art, I don't know. I'm not guessing. I'm just saying I don't know. So what do you do at Pace? How do you advise your artists?
Well, we haven't done anything like what you're saying yet. We've never sold an NFT to go with a physical work of art. We're definitely thinking about that. But if we were to do that, we would really think of the NFT as being the certificate of authenticity, and on its own having only as much value as a certificate of authenticity for a painting would have, which is essentially none. That thing doesn't have any value. It has value when it accompanies the physical work.
It's
so
interesting.
I don't see us selling NFTs to go with
on their own. I mean, separately from the physical. If you if you did that. I just read an article about the entertainer Rihanna. She's now selling NFTs, 300 NFTs for one of her latest songs. And the interesting point is that if people, so it's a small edition compared to what people would be buying her music. So those 300 are privileged, those who buy it, that they will get royalties. So every time the song is played, they get, it's a real investment. And they're sort of, in the article, they were saying it would be like, close to 7% return per year if people bought the NFT. Wow. So it's very creative. Marco, what are your, there's so many different possibilities. Have you got any ideas or special things? You were talking about restaurants too, weren't you, at one stage?
Yeah, I was thinking, actually, that is idea that I'm developing with my friend that I'm working with. Where we were thinking to use NFTs in a real world, to have some, let's say it would be like NFT loyalty. You have a chain of restaurants or a chain of hotels, and then you buy an NFT from their collection, and then you have like discounts, special offers, upgrades, stuff like that. To try to, the thing is that we want to try to bring NFT as much as close to the regular life, everyday life. So that is one of our ideas that we're developing now.
Yeah, I suppose the idea of making them artistic, I don't want to say decorative or pretty, but I mean to have an image linked to an NFT that could be a voucher for a discount, or that could be a certificate. I'm not sure what PACE certificates looks like, but when I was working at Jan Crugiers, we had, all our certificates looked the same, and basically it was letterhead and it had a few, gold leaf around it and whatever, but it wasn't something pretty that you'd put on your wall. And as you say, it's just a certificate. So I think if people start collecting those, like you would collect ticket stubs for a concert or whatever, that, because it's digital, it can expand to any number of different types of art and become collectibles as well. So it's going to be very interesting how this all develops from a collector's point of view. In Miami, I met a young man. He was all but 15, and he had like a QR code on the back of his hoodie, and if you scan it with your iPhone, the QR code would turn into wings, and so he had these flapping wings on the image, and then you can do a screenshot. Yeah. So there's all sorts, and that would become, then he would then get back to you and mint it for you, etc., etc. So it's all everybody's. It's also a great way to raise funds, like we've been doing. I saw that, Pace, you're also doing charity, aren't you? You've got a charity program. So what do you do there? How does that work?
We just tend to, most of our NFT projects. So now I'm talking about NFTs that are digital art. I'm not. We're really not doing anything with NFTs for physical art yet. Mm-hmm. But NFTs for digital art. Most of our sales, our artists have chosen with us to donate a portion of proceeds to charitable causes. So we've actually donated, just checking on this yesterday, I think $850,000 to organizations like Planned Parenthood, which is very important in the US, a number of social justice organizations, climate organizations. So yes, that's something I'm very proud of that we've done.
Okay. Yeah, no, congratulations. That's an impressive number. And so does it work, like, do you pay the charities with currencies?
No, in most cases we don't. We transfer it to USD and pay them that way. Yeah. I definitely know of organizations that are nonprofit organizations that are accepting donations in crypto. And I've heard a number of stories about organizations that started accepting donations and are receiving lots of donations from people they don't even know, but people in the crypto community really want to give back and they don't want to transfer their money to fiat. They want to give it in the form it's in. So they are looking for organizations that accept this type of donation and making donations. So
so that's a new
nonprofit, but I would advise any nonprofit to set themselves up to accept crypto donations.
I was going to say that's the next step that they have to take as well, is to adapt so that it works.
Definitely.
There's no more questions. I'm inviting people to ask questions. Everybody's very quiet out there today. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it's the first one. Is there anything, maybe Christine, that you would like to add at this stage? We're 20 minutes away from the end, so I'm going to sort of try and wrap up a little bit.
Well, I wanted to say that NFTs have democratized art in some sense, because not everybody is able to buy the original artwork. And this is very important to me, because we give the chance, we give that opportunity to everybody to be able to have a piece of art, because the fraction, the NFT costs a fraction of the original painting. So young collectors, for instance, this encourages them to build their own collection, and it's good for the artist as well, because he gets more visibility and probably a new segment, a whole new segment of new art collectors, potential art collectors. So I love NFTs for that as well. So it's not only through heavy platforms or the art world, but it's also through the hands of everybody.
I also think it's moving very fast, and it remains a fun medium at this stage. I don't think people are like in the traditional art world, the numbers we're getting up very high. I know in crypto as well, but it's still, there's that element of fun, even though it's not a game, it's still a bit like that. And I think that's also a new aspect. We have another question, so I will go into that. So it comes from Giorgio. Hi, thanks for joining us. He's commenting more. He says the problem we have in the NFT world is security. Projects are being sold to a younger generation. And after the FTX Samuel Benjamin, people are very frightened to invest. Are they? It's a very good point, Giorgio. You're right. The security is very important. We'll ask Pace what they do about security, but I know that at WISe.ART, we're a daughter company of WISe.Key, and they've been in cybersecurity for close to 25 years. Our CEO, Carlos Moreira, is very much into the Internet of Things and also protecting the identity of people as well. So, and being decentralized. So all that's very important. I think there are ways of protecting oneself from hackers, etc. Although every coder knows that he can hack his own system, that's quite clear. But then there is deontology into that as well. But maybe Marco, you can explain a bit more, seeing that you're from that world as well.
Well, there will always be, kind of a problem with security, but we all know that the blockchain is a kind of a very, complicated, system where when you put information, it cannot be changed, So I wouldn't say that the problem in the NFT world is security. I think that the problem in the NFT world, not only in the NFT world, but also with the cryptocurrencies, is that people, they're not frightened because of the security. They're frightened because they're like, they're being scammed.
Mm-hmm.
You have a lot of, new cryptocurrencies that like being created every day. Now you have over 60,000 different cryptocurrencies. 5 years ago, you had 6,000 cryptocurrencies. And most of those cryptocurrencies, they're like, bad coin. They're not usable. They really don't have any value, and then people start to invest in them, they got to rise in the price, and then it just goes down, and it's a scam, and I think that there is the reason why the people are afraid, because of that.
Yeah, and I think the lack of knowledge as well. But just this afternoon we were talking, and probably the two cryptocurrencies which are the solid or the stable ones will be Bitcoin and Ethereum for a long time. And then there's other ones too, but I mean those two seem to be the most popular one. And I think it's also a matter, Giorgio, of choosing your partners. I don't know what you think, Ariel, but it's really choosing your partners, and that's the same in the real world. I mean, you can be scammed in physical stuff as well. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think what happened with FTX is different than a lot of the other security issues you hear about in Web3. FTX was a dishonest person who took people's money and made bad investments. Or didn't do what he said he would do with that capital. More what you hear about, so that to me is sort of a little bit of an outlier, because it was a one-off and a bad actor in an investment context. More what you hear is people having their NFTs or cryptocurrency wallets hacked. Mm-hmm. You can't have your wallet hacked unless you, the user, make a mistake. And it can be very easy to make a mistake. And there are examples of very prominent, very smart people making that mistake and having their wallets hacked. But most of the visible, well-known wallets, like MetaMask, which is on the Ethereum blockchain, the most common, there's no way for someone to hack it without you, the owner, sort of like giving them permission actually to hack it, which they can trick you into doing for sure. But they are secure as they're designed to work. And then if there is a mistake in terms of how you grant permissions to people, you know, that can happen. You could give someone your bank account information.
It's
as well.
the same thing, yeah. And I also heard that people forget to log out, like they go in there, they do their transactions and whatever, and then they just leave and they don't log out. So obviously if it stays open, it's a little bit of, it's a risk as well. We have some other questions. We've got, I'll get back to Georgia. He's put in another very interesting point, and I've got Helen. Thank you, Helen. So the question is, do you trust in Metara.io as a marketplace created by Hypocamp, a French startup? I started to deposit some NFTs. Tezos is their crypto, but it seems that it doesn't move a lot. Do you have any suggestions? Do you have to suggest some other places? Now, yeah, Tezos seems to be very popular in the art world. I have to admit, I don't know Hypocamp and Metara.io, but in Art Basel, we see a lot of the Tezos booths, and they use FX hash, I think, as well. So I don't know. Does any one of you know this other marketplace? No? Sorry, Helen, can't help you much, but I definitely will look it up. And if you drop me a line, I'll get back to you on that, and I'll get some advice for you. Georgia was also saying, and now comes into play Blur, where wash trading has become the every normal. Again, I don't really know how to answer that. Does anyone have an answer to wash trading?
I don't know what wash trading is. I mean, Blur is a very popular secondary marketplace that's been stealing a lot of share from OpenSea and kind of shaking up the whole secondary system for NFTs. And most recently, the big shakeup was that Blur essentially doesn't charge royalties, and now OpenSea has decided to do the same. So to your earlier question, royalties for now are a thing of the past in this space. I think they'll come back, but that's no longer a draw. Yeah, true. It'll probably come back because that was one of the main points at the beginning of the NFTs, is that artists of fine art were finally being able to be remunerated for their work in the long term, which actors and musicians were doing already. Definitely, it's so important. And I mean, I feel strongly, and Pace that does, and our artists do, that that's such an important part of this whole ecosystem. It's just right now it's not functioning. Yeah. We've got Richard as well. Thank you for being here. Traditional art world is now coming to NFTs, but will digital and generative art now be recognized and exhibited in the traditional art world? Yeah, I think it already is. We were mentioning some artists earlier, and obviously Pace is a super good example of that. So I think it will happen. I also think that the method or the tool to exhibit, like token frames, they've got their wallet attached to the back, like it is basically it's a big wallet with a screen, physical, but there's other ways to display them. And I think the more that comes into play, the more people will turn to it. But I'm pretty sure, that traditional art collectors will turn to digital art sooner or later, and it's happening as we speak. I think that's quite clear. So there we are. I wanted to ask Marco, what's your future? What would you tell people to do in this new environment?
Well, I will tell them to, just let them imagination, work, blockchain and NFTs, there is endless possibilities, especially in the blockchain. And of course, there is also a metaverse, which is growing like every day. Now you have somewhere around 400 million active users in a metaverse. So I think that also NFT is going to grow there a lot. Yeah. And just, follow your imagination, let it work, and you can make anything happen.
I think the metaverse will be also more popular once we get, more easily usable goggles, glasses, whatever, Oculus that you want to call them. If it becomes more readily accessible and less sort of sci-fi, it'll hook on a lot of people. What do you think, Ariel? What would your word of the future be?
Word of the future. Say more. What do you want me to touch on?
Oh, I don't know what you definitely, we said before that it's here to stay and how it's going to develop, and in the Web3. So you're going to have more and more artists, you think, or you're going to do pace will be pace and Verso will grow, or are you in competition?
I think Verso will grow. We'll continue to support great art, no matter what medium it's in. Pace will, and Verso will play that role within the digital blockchain-backed space. And I think we'll continue to double down on generative art and supporting Pace Gallery artists who are making generative art, as well as new artists emerging from that space. We have an exhibition next month with Tyler Hobbs, who's really an excellent example of a generative artist who we would have never learned about if it weren't for Web3. And we'll continue to grow and adapt, and we're looking forward to it.
Cool, it's exciting. Yeah. All of a sudden people have woken up, so we've got more questions. Okay, somebody's explaining what wash trading is. Thanks, Tom. So it's for everyone's information. Wash trading is an ISSE issue related to the anonymous aspect of the blockchain. You create new wallets to buy your own art and ultimately inflate the price through artificial demand. All right, well, that's nothing that happens all the time as well. Damien Hirst is a good example, not to mention him, but yeah, it's creativity, and you can use it in a good way, or you can use it in a more creative way to make more money quickly or artificially. I don't know if governance is going to come into that one day. I'm sure it is. At least here in Switzerland, there's a lot of talk about regulating all that sort of thing. So I'm sure it will happen quickly, and the same sort of governance will apply to the crypto and the digital world as it is to the physical world. And Tom also has a question for Ariel. Do you consider using NFTs to make the art world more accessible to everyone regarding price?
Yes, I mean, I think that's what's happening. I don't think we have to care. Like, I don't have to have a perspective on it one way or another. It just is what it is. That's what's happening. We have a partnership with Art Blocks, which is an amazing platform for generative art, where we sell projects by our artists that usually have hundreds of outputs, and the prices are low relative to those artists' physical markets. So the best example is an artist we work with, Loie Hollowell, did a project on Art Blocks. Loie's paintings at Pace, when they're on the primary market, sell for about $300,000 to $400,000, and they sell for much more at auction. Her NFTs, which were based on her paintings, really gorgeous, utilized generative technology to expand the range of possibilities she explores in her compositions. Those sold out. There were 280 of them. They sold in about 40 minutes, but the lowest price someone paid was I think like $800. So, I mean, talk about a price difference and opportunity to own a Loie Hollowell work for truly a fraction of the price.
Yeah, I also can mention the currency program, or the currency project that Damien Hirst did. Like you could buy one of his dots, or like these NFTs that he generated for £2,000, I think it was, which is very accessible. Giorgio says that NFT will be the future, and we need to get the older generation involved. We're trying. Then we've got Anthony that says social engineering remains the responsibility of most hacks anyway. So in Web3 isn't going to change anything about that. Yeah, you're right. The best advice is never to share your private wallet key to anyone. Thank you. That's good advice. All right. Let me just also close off by saying that our next webinar will be next month, and we're going to have a whole lot of the WISe.ART artists. And we're going to say, are we for NFTs or against NFTs? And why do we even question it? It shouldn't even be a question. I think everybody should be for them. But that's my opinion. And you guys are welcome to tell me the contrary. And we're going to have 4 amazing artists. We have Amanda Weezy, we have Ismail Retropop, we have Mike Nuagu, and Taline Temizian. One nice thing, and I don't know if you feel the same, Ariel, is that I'm discovering artists from all over the world, and that's because of obviously digital and internet, but that's been really, really fun because I would have never traveled to most of the places where the artists come from. So it's really nice.
Yes, absolutely.
Again, I would like to thank you all, and hopefully we'll get to meet in real life one day. If you're in Geneva, please come and see us. If I'm in New York, I'll definitely visit you, Ariel. And again, thank you for being here at such short notice. It was great. Any questions, guys, you're welcome to write to me at WISe.ART. You know, the platform is platform.wise.art and dot. And then I'll pass on the questions if there's any more. We've still got more questions now. People woke up. Wait a minute. Will be the future. No, everybody's saying thank you. So that's great. Thanks, Benedict. Thank you, Giorgio. And all these people have been very active. So I'll say goodbye for now and see you next time. Enjoy the rest of the day. Bye.
Thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure. It was lovely having you. Bye-bye.